Hey there, gamers. DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about Metal Gear Solid Delta because you guys know I'm a very big fan of Metal Gear Solid, especially since the very start. So before I actually played this remake, I decided to go back and use the collection and replay Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 3. Why not 2? Well, because I got stuff to do. But while playing this remake, I got to admit that in a lot of ways, I regret buying it. Something about this just feels kind of soulless. I mean, yeah, just in general, it also runs bad. For this remake, the resolution is very inconsistent. It crashes constantly. The new graphics in some spots don't really capture the original idea, but it's more than that. I gotta say that this video is not saying that Metal Gear Solid is Delta or trash. I'm not telling you to boycott it. I wanted to explain why, as a fan, I really just don't think this was worth the $70 I spent. I mean, this collection of all the games captures the original essence perfectly at a higher frame rate, at a higher resolution. And honestly, it's $20. But let me break it down, the goods and the bads of Delta, and why, even if I do have my gripes, it's interesting to see it come back in its own new way. Hi, hope you're having a great day. And if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I do want to quickly thank my subscribers. It took me a couple days to do this video, and the whole comment section of all my videos has been saying, Delta, Delta, Delta. I appreciate the love. But for this, I want to just talk about what it is to start with. Metal Gear Solid Delta is a very unique remake because it is just the original game. They've reconstructed it entirely, bit by bit, piece of art by piece of art. This is all the original voice lines. It's the exact original story. Every phone call, every piece of footage, it is the same game. And yet, at the same time, it's not. This now has a completely new control scheme. And I want to start by talking about how, honestly, the craziest difference between the original and Delta is that this does play way better. Just the actual gameplay, it's set for modern audiences, and I gotta admit that it's really trippy, especially after going straight from the original to this. Delta is a substantial upgrade, and anybody who wants to try and act like the original version with that top-down camera is dramatically better. This new version looks and plays a lot better. So the way this works is you can play this with legacy controls and legacy camera angles if you want. It's totally an option, but I wanted to play the modern version, right? I just beat the original. I wanted to see how this plays. You can now move and shoot simultaneously, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but man, does it actually change stuff quite a bit. And it's kind of cool because it makes it where a lot of times when you were trying to watch patrols or find people and stuff, it was a bit clunky in some areas trying to dodge people. And also, this has constant autosaves. When you screw up, or more frequently when the game just crashes for no reason, it autosaves constantly. You can just instantly shut the game down, boot it back up. So it is kind of interesting that when you fail, when you die, there's not as high of a cost, so you feel more encouraged to experiment. They also did hundreds of tiny tweaks that honestly, in a lot of ways, I think make the game just play a lot better. To switch your costumes or try and heal your wounds and stuff, there's like this first aid system where whenever you get shot or something, you actually have to dig the bullet out in a menu, sew up the wound, disinfect it, apply bandages, stuff like that. That menu used to be hidden. It used to be something you had to actually pause the game, go through like several submenus and stuff to get to. Now, whenever you're hurt, whenever you're hungry, whenever you actually need to do stuff, it'll just pop up a prompt that says, hey, do you want to press up on the D-pad to cure stuff? Do you want to go into the healing menu and dig out those bullets? It's very convenient. You can also quick swap your camos. A big idea they did in Snake Eater Delta that's so fantastic is just the original game in this. I really like the stealth system. There are a lot of hidden camouflages. You can actually get, there's like a big set at the original, but the more you do side quests or help side stuff or check out side objectives, you know, going into the purposeful wrong path, finding extra camps and stuff, or even beating bosses in particular ways, which I won't spoil, you unlock extra costumes. And these extra costumes are really extra cool camouflages. And now you can just hold up on the D-pad, and not only does it just swap it, it will tell you, here's the camouflage rating of each of them. That is such a fantastic change that makes it where you're not constantly going into the menus now. You're now just allowed to kind of sit there and soak up how different this game looks. Now, let's talk about the most controversial aspects of this game. A lot of people are saying the game runs like trash. People are saying the game is busted, unoptimized, completely destroyed on a code level. I will say that the game definitely doesn't run good. Multiple sources now have said that they actually screwed up something inside the game itself, and it actually runs the worst on PlayStation 5 Pro, and that's what I bought it on. It runs bad. It runs bad. There's this weird, like, glossiness to a lot of stuff. I've seen people say that the programming term is a shimmer, where everything kind of looks like weird and floaty, and I don't know what it is. It's very off-putting. It's not there all the time, thankfully, but sometimes I'd be like running from an area, or I'm trying to dodge stuff, and something just looks really weird, and it doesn't really fully process. You're just like, what's happening to this gameplay, right? But the real problem I have isn't just with like the resolution or with the really terrible frame rate. It's the fact that honestly, something about the new graphics at times feel very soulless. Like when Hideo Kojima made this on the PlayStation 2, he was dealing with the product of his time. Limited hardware, limited processing power, limited disk space. He probably couldn't fully realize this epic vision. But I almost feel like, in a lot of ways, constraint makes good art. Obviously, I'm covered in book tattoos, right? I'm obsessed with books. And I always like the fact that, honestly, some of my favorite authors are a lot of times those people that are hungry or really tormented trying to put out their own creation. Something that's so unique. This is an art, a story I think you should read. I always felt like Kojima, for a guy that seems so happy, that seems so artistically engaged, a lot of his stuff sort of captured this interesting, tormented love that I've really appreciated. And honestly, this new one, it just cleans all that up. I mean, just every part of it. The graphics, the new character models, the environments, it all looks photorealistic, but it definitely feels like we're losing something. Like, I'm not going to fully explain this context, but there's a scene towards the end of the game where, very famously, we see Snake standing and saluting at a grave. The original version, it's very, very, very heavily clouded. It's like this thick, misty morning. And that makes sense. He's shrouded by his past. He's thinking about how the heck he's going to navigate his life after this. It's a thing they probably did because of the constraints of the PlayStation 2. But now, hey, it's the PlayStation 5. It's the Xbox. We can look as far as we want. Okay, but I think that mist served a narrative and technical purpose. A lot of stuff in this game honestly just looks worse, even if it does look better. There's this old quote I read like a million years ago in a gaming magazine when they were remaking The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the 3DS. The 3DS remake is a totally new game, and they talked about how difficult that game was to remake because in a lot of ways, they didn't want to do it. They said, there's so many things we've learned to do better. There's so many glitches and errors and stuff in the original game that now people love a lot. So making this remake, we have to repeat our mistakes. They said it's like painting a giant mosaic masterpiece. And now somebody says, all right, now paint it again. And you have to go there and repeat every error, every weird splotch. You have to do the same thing again. This almost feels like that, but somebody else is painting it. Kojima's original game is a masterpiece. I'll be honest, I do prefer the original game to this day. These graphics are better, but the original game, I think the small maps, the really clunky controls at times, the really difficult boss fights, that made sense on the PlayStation 2 in a way that just seems like a gimmick on the PlayStation 5. I almost want to say that mimicking greatness isn't necessarily greatness. The new controls are great. I will say that I like the new sound design. I like a lot of stuff. I will say that the funniest part of this is that it is cool how much this does still have that original goofiness. If you've never played Metal Gear Solid 3, if you've never played Delta, Snake, the original, the new one, What's always been the most fun to me when I was a kid and first playing these games is I like that every boss has a trick. I always loved this, and it's cool that replaying it, because it is the exact same game beat for beat, it is cool that all that stuff is still there. When you're fighting the fear, like you can take a fake death potion, and when he comes and inspects you, you can actually pop up and get in some really, really big hits. If you're fighting the pain, he has all these bees he shoots and stuff like that, but if you just hide in the water and snipe him, you can beat that entire boss without ever getting hit. I mean, the end, there's a sniper that's over 100 years old that tries to fight you. It's this very long, very drawn out, very difficult boss fight. But if you just fast forward the clock in your PlayStation 2, he would die of old age. You can do that on your PlayStation 5. I mean, the fact that this is still, to its core, the original Metal Gear Solid 3, while I wish this had been more experimental or something, I like the fact that at least it is still authentic. Now, there are two modes you can also play in this that I guess, again, I don't really get, because they're also technically not new. They both existed in the original game. They're just slightly more fleshed out. There's a mini game called Snake versus Monkey. It's like these 6 little missions where Snake has a little gun and he can shoot these monkeys and then touch them and capture them. Obviously, it's cool to see Ape Escape. Ape Escape in 4K. That's fantastic, right? I will say that the original version of this, it was goofy and funny. Here, it almost feels obligatory. There was also a thing you could do in the original game. There was a hidden mini game called Guy Savage, where you were like a vampire hunter going against Dracula. That's back. They remade the gameplay. But if I'm being honest, I don't care about this. This unlocks after you beat the game. That's cool and stuff. But I guess I feel like I wish that this team, with this amount of talent, with this amount of passion, with this amount of love of Kojima, had done a completely new Metal Gear. Can I just say that? Look, it would be judged on its own merits. I think that if this game, this team, this amount of polish was a spinoff, if they'd made another in-between game. Now, I've beaten every Metal Gear Solid. I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours. My favorite Metal Gear Solid always has been and always will be Peace Walker. And I've always liked the fact that Peace Walker feels like this in-between story that a lot of people talk about less, but it's cool to see kind of that grander context of Outer Heaven and these characters, Big Boss, the forming of all these different secret organizations and stuff. I kind of wish they had done something like that. An in-between story. So we still saw these characters or other characters, but in different eras that we had not seen yet. So I'm going to say something weird. I genuinely regret buying this, and I just feel like I didn't really get anything super great out of this. It's interesting, but definitely not worth the $70. But I'm also going to sound like a hypocrite because I want to play what they make next. I want to see the next Metal Gear by this team. I want to see the future of Metal Gear. And I guess in a way, that's what Konami's entire purpose for this experiment was. They're trying to do remakes like the remake we got of Silent Hill 2, which was experimental and different and changed. And now they're doing this one, which is a little too close to the original source material. They're trying to basically revive their old classic IP. It's just weird to think about the fact that one of the best remakes I've ever played in my life, Silent Hill 2 remake, and then one of the safest, overly protected remakes of all time I've seen, Delta, are by the same company. It just feels odd. So I'm just going to say this. I played it. I beat it. I like it. I don't think I'll love it. And if anything, next time I crave in Metal Gear Solid, I'm not playing this. I'm going back to the OGs, baby. Also, go play more of the original Metal Gear Solid. Also, give us a collection volume 2. Put Peace Walker on PS5, damn it. If I had to give this a score, let's go over to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Metal Gear Solid Delta an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, gamers. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. You know, I met David Hayter a couple of years ago. Very, very nice guy. I'll be honest, maybe it's just the fact that I like the original Snake voice so much. It's cool to hear the original Snake voice again. I really want to see more stuff. Specifically, if you bring it back, you got to bring back David Hayter. Please, please, please. Bring back all the original cast. Do new stuff, right? Oh yeah, this is supposed to have a big online mode launching at some point. Didn't come at launch, so I guess I'll review that separately at some point. Thanks for watching. If you could, please Give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.